It's so funny when we say when we work with clients, this is going to sound really, really obvious to everyone listening at home, but it's one of those fundamental facts that it's really easy to get wrong. And that is, if you're selling a subscription product, whether that's a physical good, software, anything, you have to get people to use the product. No matter what offer they buy or what they get from you, they have to start using the product. A product I love as an example of this is called X Endurance. But what they tell you when you buy it is go do your big weekly workout, whether that's a WOD or a marathon or whatever, before you take the product. Track your time, start taking the product. 7 days later, go do that same workout again.
This is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgenson.
Welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio. I'm your host, Tyler Jorgenson, and today we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship from the lens of e-commerce and subscription and continuity, and it's one of my favorite things. And so I'm really excited to get to know and to share with you the man that is Matthew Holman. Welcome out to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Tyler. It's fun.
Now, do you go by Matt or Matthew? Because I have both.
It's like Matty, Matthew. It's just one of those things depending on what stage of life I met you in. I have different nicknames for whatever age we would have been friends at.
I love that. Now, you are there in Silicon Slopes, the amazing entrepreneurial hub that is Utah, and you didn't start an MLM. Talk to us about how you got into subscription.
Well, I've definitely worked with some MLMs over the years and have some family members currently trying to recruit me into one. But I got into subscriptions. I was a director of marketing at a shipping technology company, which I think after MLMs is probably the second most common business here in Utah. And I was actually working there, and my now wife started working at the company. She was the CEO's sister. So to preserve my, personal and professional career, I decided it was best to start branching out, get into the entrepreneur journey, and joined up a little startup called Autoship Cloud, QPilot, where we do some technology related for subscription brands. And that was kind of like a really incredible inflection point because it opened up so much for my career and everything that I'm doing today. It's been pretty incredible. And, married, have a kid now, and almost happily ever after, but not quite yet ready to write off.
Well, ever after is not the fun part. It's happily in the middle. That's the great journey of it all. Exactly. So, I like to ask this question because I think it kind of steers things, because not everyone is born an entrepreneur. Some people stumble into it. When was that first moment in your life where you realized you were an entrepreneur?
I think it comes down to control and, excuse me. Comes down to control. I think it's a question of like, do I want to keep, it was kind of two things. It's like, hey, if you really want to have a lot of control and wealth and ability, like, are you just going to get that working for somebody else? And so that boss I had at eHub, my now brother-in-law, is an incredible entrepreneur. He's been one his entire life. And it says like, why, I love not working for anybody else. And so I think like being able to take more control over my time, what I want to build. And all these times we're always butting our heads into the wall, trying to get other people to see our vision and building the company the way we want. It's like, oh, okay, go build your own company. And then you get to do all of that yourself.
Yeah. So it sounds like for you, it was a little bit of an evolution. Maybe you didn't start initially that way, but you realized this is you're more likely to build the lifestyle that you want if you can build the business that you want.
Exactly.
Cool. And so what is it that you're building and creating right now?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When I mentioned I left eHub to join Autoship Cloud, and my business partner there, David Bradley, who's been an incredible partner building, we started first on the software side. And at the same time that I joined him, I started a little marketers meetup because I was a solo marketing co-founder at a bootstrapped software company, which is so many people I know out there that are doing that same thing. So a few friends in a similar boat, we started getting together and just regularly just to share notes and share ideas. And the evolution of both of those things has been pretty incredible. So that little group I mentioned quickly grew into this larger and larger community. I transitioned into an e-commerce community called Commerce Catalyst a few years ago. And now we have 2 annual conferences out here in Utah where we get several, 300, 400 people to come out. We've got a Slack group with 1,300 people in it. We do lunch and learns, workshops, everything I can to connect people put people in a room together so that we can learn and share together. So that's just been an incredible evolution for the community side. And then on the subscription stuff, what first started out as being a SaaS marketer, we quickly found a huge gap in the market in that there was no real thought leadership inside the direct to consumer subscription space. If you're on Shopify or on WooCommerce, you know that most people that talk about subscriptions are the people selling software. And so we started a newsletter about 4 years ago for that very purpose, to try to sell software, but quickly found that people just wanted guidance and help. And so that newsletter became a podcast and then became a consultancy and an agency. And now we've worked with some incredible brands, some helping crack this subscription puzzle. So for me, it's also just been an incredible, my own like journey of discovering what I'm really good at and where I could be special and make a real difference. And that's in the consulting side, getting really into the weeds in these complex problems, but also being a community builder. Just love connecting people and helping people. And so unlocking those things for me have unlocked, revenue and growth and professional success.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of everything you just said, of community and especially of subscription. Back in the day, I had a few e-commerce brands, and when I first learned about I could just set up continuity and subscription instead of just sell once and hope they buy back again later on an email. Yeah. It changed everything. And in fact, for those of you watching, like my first award up here was from ClickFunnels, was when we did a free plus shipping offer with a continuity behind it.
I love that.
So I'm just a huge fan. And you, with Commerce Catalyst, that becoming a community, something that you did to bring people together. You started that, at least according to what I'm looking at, in November of 2021. And that's right after one of the big evolutions in e-commerce. What has changed over the past 5 years in e-commerce? What are some of the biggest changes?
Yeah, I would say everybody's complaining or hyping up AI right now. But I think the biggest thing is we're becoming more and more I think more and more people aware of multiple channels, multiple ways to buy. I think that Meta is still the main engine that people use to build their businesses. And anybody who tells you differently is that's still doesn't really know what they're talking about. However, you still have Amazon that's still punching really, really strong. TikTok Shop is growing incredibly well. And so I think an acquisition is becoming really, really difficult with the rising cost of ads and how Meta is managing their platform with Andromeda. So I think the real opportunity here where we're seeing this shift is brands still continue to invest in content, in authenticity, multi-channel approaches, getting more multi-channel, from a marketing perspective, showing up in more places. Everybody's still trying to get into retail. Everybody's still trying to make that work. It's just that margins are a lot tighter, things are a lot harder. And we're starting to see a separation between the brands that really can run operationally efficiently versus those that are struggling to do that. So there's starting to be a bit of a gap between the winners and losers, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned earlier, a few of the things you worked on were bootstrapped. And in e-commerce, you have the guys that are starting, off their kitchen table, but you also have the well-funded, VC-backed brands that are launching. When you look at the guys who are bootstrapped, what are some of the key signals that they're doing it right? What are some of the main things they
really know their customer. So I know of several instances of brands that have sold to PE firms or larger firms, and then a year or two later, they end up buying their company back because the PE firm can't run it. They couldn't figure out something or couldn't crack a factor for them. The other piece of that is knowing your customer, but it's also influencer-led brands. We have an incredible brand out here in Utah, Ballerina Farm, right? She's an incredible persona online, talks about her family, all these things. Sometimes a little controversial depending on where you sit in the whole ecosystem of trad wife and all this other stuff. But I think it's an incredible brand, and they've built incredible products to support that personal brand. And we're seeing a lot of that. So I think anytime you can really connect with your audience, and that's either through a persona or through how you're solving a problem, really effectively. If you look at Groons is another really big example. They're 300, 400 million, depending on what number you're seeing online right now. Is they really cracked the puzzle on a kid's healthy gummy that tastes good, that parents feel confident in. It's a really high quality product. So it's when you're able to do those things, that's when you see these brands just keep going up and to the right.
Yeah, and I fully agree, man. Knowing your customer is so so significant because it's more than just the basic customer avatar, right? Of their age
Right.
and that sort of thing, but it's really understanding their psychographics. Now you mentioned influencers and you mentioned influencer-led brands, and you also mentioned a little bit of controversy. How important is polarity and controversy in being able to like punch through the noise and get attention?
It's funny. It's like, I'm sure you've seen this too, where it's like, if I wanted my podcast to be listened to more, I could take harsher takes and be more controversial. And so, and I get why some people do that. I've met people that are totally different than they are online. I
Oh
get
yeah.
why they're doing that. It's a choice that I personally don't want to do. I just want to try to be helpful. It's how I like to show up. I do think what's important is I don't think that some of these brands are trying to be necessarily controversial. It's just the world that we live in where people are able to find things that are wrong or that they don't like, and then you get talked about more. The truth is like for Ballerina Farm, if there still wasn't controversy, they'd still be incredibly successful because of what she's built. And so
Right.
that's what I think is important to keep in mind. Like, you don't wake up one day thinking I'm going to build a really controversial brand. But at the same time, there's companies selling American flags or Christian T-shirts and all these things that are doing really, really well. They're not doing it because they're trying to shove a cross in your face. They're doing it because they know that their audience loves this type of thing. And so I do think it does come back to you build for the audience that's going to spend dollars with you. And if other people start to take exception to that, then oftentimes that can be helpful because now your audience has a stronger identity with your brand because they don't like the people that are criticizing you.
Yeah. You are working with a lot of different people doing doing subscription and doing continuity. What are some of the most surprising or unique things that you've seen on subscription?
Wow, we were helping a sex toy box company recently where it was like guiding you on a journey each month with different types of toys, and it was a beginner's type box. It wasn't like if you're a very good pro. I've got a bunch of other stuff that I could say that's probably maybe too inappropriate, but I think the most compelling or interesting thing is just there's so many different ways that people are developing protein products. There are so many different ways I think that people are finding.
Just to be clear, those two things weren't connected.
I was going to say one of them, Tyler, was a product related to that, but we won't. I mean, I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think sorry, I lost my train of thought. I think women's health, hormonal health, supplements. I do think we're seeing like a really strong movement towards more awareness around what's in products. There's a brand out here in Utah called Just Ingredients that is influencer led, but is completely based off of a stay-at-home mom calling out the ingredients that are in the products that she's buying for her family. And now they're massively successful and rolling, and they have a product in almost every category you can imagine because they're just all about the ingredients. And so honestly, I'm never really surprised when I see new products other than just, it's always interesting to see a new take, something a little bit different of how they're showing up in the marketplace.
I worked a lot in subscription boxes when that was a really bigger trend, right? It's definitely slowed down and evolved, a lot more quarterly boxes and things like that as well. Right. And it's been fascinating to see as companies started understanding things like time with product and just understanding that the psychology behind what makes something a positive experience, right? And then you also, in the early days when I was in e-commerce and supplements, I mean, people were just sending out whatever supplement, any kind of packaging. And now you see brands really taking the kind of the Apple approach of making the unboxing experience really powerful and experiential. How significant are you seeing the entire customer experience playing into, retention rates?
Yeah, I think you're calling it out, and it's so funny to say when we work with clients and everyone. This is going to sound really, really obvious to everyone listening at home, but it's one of those fundamental facts that it's really easy to get wrong, and that is if you're selling a subscription product, whether that's a physical good, software, anything, you have to get people to use the product, regardless of no matter what offer they buy or what they get from you, they have to start using the product. And so what we see is that those first 7 to 10 days are the most important critical touch points after the point of purchase, right? Because if you don't have the customer, this doesn't matter. So unboxing can be critical. It can still be simple if there's something around. A product I love as an example of this is called X Endurance. They're a supplement product that helps endurance athletes, CrossFit, all kinds of stuff. I've used it myself. Cannot stress enough how effective it is. But what they tell you when you buy it is go do your big weekly workout, whether that's a WOD or a marathon or whatever, before you take the product. Track your time. Start taking the product. 7 days later, go do that same workout again. And you're going to see and feel how different you feel. And that's an extreme example of like, we're proving to you right away how our product works. And it does. But with skincare, it's like, how do you get that into a routine? If it's a mushroom coffee, how do you get that into a routine? And so unboxing, first product experiences, adoption, all of those things. So we're at one point, we're reducing friction. We're answering questions, making sure it's really clear. I bought a sleep supplement recently where it didn't say how close to bed I should take the sleep supplement, which was a total no-brainer, right? But again, that's how easy it is to mess some of this stuff up. All the way to the other end of like making it really positive. I bought some matcha and the instructions made me feel like I was in like what it would be like to be in a Japanese tea house with how I was mixing it and pouring it and preparing it. So when you make those first product experiences special, people remember them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I really liked how you mentioned that it's easy to miss those things, right? And if for people listening, it's like, this sounds obvious, but when you're building a business from scratch, and you spend so much time around a product, sometimes you start to make assumptions because you're like, well, it is obvious, so why do I need to say it? But man, so to find a way to make the instructions experiential and like they're part of a story or part of living in an experience is so powerful, especially on supplements that oftentimes the efficacy isn't noticed for like 30 plus days. I've always been like, how are you supposed to know? I mean, if it was that or any other variable in your life that changed in that 30 days. But so there, you got to be creative and find ways to get them, staying involved and staying excited, because utilization, no one's going to stay subscribed if the utilization isn't there. Exactly. What are some cool success stories that you've seen as you stepped in through, coaching and consulting with subscription prescription? How have you helped some people?
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest things is really, and the most impactful place to be working, because most people think of subscription as a retention game, but it's actually an offer game. So if you look at some of the big bellwethers in the space, like Dollar Shave Club, they're doing a starter kit. They're basically giving you a $25 pack of products for $5. We've worked with skincare brands where their AOV goes up 50% just by changing what we're offering, what we're selling to the customer. And it can be done in such a way, like the biggest tactic that I really like right now that's really common is what we would call bulk offers. So if you're selling a bag of protein powder, you could offer somebody one bag and you could do that at discounted to a subscription, or you can offer somebody the option to buy 1 bag, 2 bag, or 3 bags. And the 2 bags and 3 bags can have progressively higher discounts. And what you start to see is even if you can get 5 or 10% of your buyers to pick that 3 bag option, it changes the multiples inside of like your cost to acquire customers, profitability of the business, and people that buy more retain better. It's just a natural fact. I have yet to see an example where somebody that buys a 3 bag on a quarterly subscription doesn't retain at a higher rate than somebody on a monthly. And so this idea of you just test ways to get people in. You don't need to worry about doing gifts on the second and third order if you're not doing gifts at the point of purchase. Like, look at ways you can bundle products, put things together, make them a kit, make them an experience. Because if you can crack how to get people into the program, you can get feedback on what they like, what they're seeing, what they don't like, and you can continue to iterate that program around those things. But getting them in the door is the hardest thing. And if you do them in such a way where you're incentivizing the right types of people, because subscriptions is often viewed as a discount game, where people expecting more and more discounts to come on, those are bad customers. They will constantly be shopping and leaving, or just take the offer and cancel right away. So offer testing is the biggest thing. That's where we see the biggest impact. Everything else is great on the retention side. There's a ton of stuff we could talk about, but that's the biggest thing, as I'm sure you know from your businesses. If you can't get it, if you can't sell it at a price you can afford to give it away, then you're screwed.
Yeah, absolutely. When if offer, and I love that angle that it really comes down to offer. There's so many things you can optimize later, but if you're optimizing a bad offer, it's still not great, right? So starting with the offer is just paramount. You mentioned earlier that the companies that are successful are really looking at content and omnichannel. They're going multi-channel. They're expanding. You also mentioned that Meta is the primary driver. Where do you coach and advise people to go to second?
Depending on the product, TikTok Shop is really, really impactful. If you have a physical product that has visual components to it, we were talking to just earlier today, a brand that's doing like kids body wash and soap and stuff, but it's a kind of sculpting. It has a texture to it. It's like, hey, if I can show what that looks like, pouring it in my hand and playing with it, that does well on TikTok. That's how I look. Amazon is still an amazing discovery platform, and depending on the category, can be really, really effective. Those are the biggest places. If you can't be successful on those, then a lot of the others, unless you're getting to like wholesale and stuff, can be really hard.
Yeah. What are some of the common mistakes you're seeing, some of the earlier brands that you're working with or that come in or that you just talk to in your community making consistently?
Over engineering a subscription experience. When you're just starting out, the example I like to use is like you see a Tesla driving by and you're going to go try to build a Tesla when you can't even build a skateboard. So it's like focus on the skateboard, focus on what matters in that. And anybody I mean, honestly, any business of any size, you should be worrying about your offer and feedback. And when you're small, that's especially critical. If you can't get people to buy from you and then tell you what they like or don't like, or at least understand better, like you mentioned, psychographics. Protein powder is a really simple example. There are so many different people that take protein powder for different reasons, whether I'm using that as a meal replacement, I'm bulking, I have a health issue. Like there's so many reasons to take it. But if you don't know why people are buying it, what specific reason, then when I market to them after the fact, when I remind them of the value of their subscription, I'm speaking in very broad terms instead of being able to say like, hey, you're going into a bulk phase. Here you go. Like, here's a special offer, get 3 bags because I know you're doubling up right now, right? Or, hey, maybe you're leaving a bulk phase. Like, do you want to change the frequency on your subscriptions so you don't need to cancel it kind of thing, or you don't end up with too much stuff? So very simple examples, but that's what you should be paying attention to. Otherwise, you make things too complicated. You see what other people are doing. You're chasing, hey, Grooms is a $300 million brand, and this is what they're testing on their PDP. Well, yeah, they've gone through years of iterations to reach that point. You're not going to reinvent the wheel that quickly, not like they did.
Yeah. I always tell people it's important to not compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's like chapter 20. You do want to learn from their entire book, but you still need to take the first steps at the beginning and get there and build it up.
You just miss the opportunities to find something special about what you're doing if you do that.
Yeah. What gets you the most excited about e-commerce today?
Communications and AI. We're seeing innovations where you can now know a lot more about your customer, that you'll be able to get a text message about an upcoming subscription order, and that the AI will know that last year you paused during February and will suggest pausing again for you. Or, hey, based off of, their own machine learning, it's the right time to pair with this other product. So that's what I'm really excited about, is a lot more of the automation and the personalization, like true personalization, instead of just, it's been a buzzword for years and years, but we're actually starting to see it really be leveraged in a really fun way.
Yeah, it's been so hard to do manually, right? Even things like suggested products in Shopify, right? You had to you usually had to set that agreement or set that rule up. And now AI with data can do it far better than any of us could have done it with.
I'm seeing apps now where it's like they're actually taking the onboarding away from you completely. Where I just saw demos today and yesterday of some new apps where it's you plug it in and it starts spinning up the messaging and the cadence based off of, say, like your repeat purchase data that it identifies inside of Shopify. You don't have to do any of the trigger flow work. It's just going to do it for you, which I'm sure some people won't like. But for most people, they're like, oh, great, I can go now tackle the next problem because the software is just doing all of this work that I don't have to do now.
Yeah, especially the lesser funded groups, the people who don't have massive teams of back-end e-commerce tech people.
Right.
It allows them to at least get. And again, if you are a customer focused business where you're really focused on serving and understand the customer, these things can just help you stay focused in your zone of genius and doing those parts. And so I'm a big I like it. I like the technology. I think we have to be careful with it and be mindful with it, but I think we also have to find ways to use it in a ethical and sustainable way, not just pretend that
100%.
it's horrible, But
It's just more like if you already kind of know what you're doing, like when it comes to content or ads or retention, like AI is just supposed to, you should be thinking of it how it can enable you, not replace you. Because if it replaces you, it can't think the way you can. It likes to make you think it can, but it can't.
yeah,
So knowing what a good outcome looks like means you can be really dangerous with those types of tools compared to somebody else.
yeah, I do feel like we're going through an era where people maybe overutilized and overleaned into it, and now are realizing, I would like to preserve my cognition
Yep.
and still be able to think independently and use it as a tool. I like that. Enable you, not replace you. I think that's really powerful. When you decided that you're going to leave corporate world and start these businesses and be an entrepreneur, what and lifestyle is a major reason for that. What's one item on your personal bucket list that you're going to accomplish in the next 12 months?
Well, I just had knee surgery 2 weeks ago to get my knee cleaned out so I can get back out there on the trails running. I'd like to do another, I did a half Ironman a couple years ago. That's like, I don't know if I could get the 70.3 again, but I'll definitely be getting a smaller one going depending on how things go. So I'm really, really excited to not have to run with pain anymore.
That's a big deal. And yeah, good motivation to get moving again after surgery and, all those kind of slowdowns and setbacks.
Yeah.
And as where should people go to learn more about you and about what you're creating?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Matthew Holman. If you're interested in subscriptions, thesubscriptiondoc.com. We've got a newsletter and podcast, and I'm happy to jump on calls talking strategy with anybody. And then if you're in the e-com space and if you're looking for a killer community to connect with, Commerce Catalyst, ccatalyst.co. We're out in Utah hosting events, but we also have a Slack group. It's definitely worth taking a visit because we're just doing so many cool stuff all the time. And again, it's a really great community with people that just love connecting, learning, empowering each other. It's pretty amazing.
I love that. If you were to just give a piece of advice and to anyone entering e-commerce at this time, what would that big piece of advice be?
Like most things in life, it's going to be a lot harder than you think it is. And so persistence is the number one skill, is being able to something feel impossible and you have to keep working and working to try to figure it out and then know that there's going to be another impossible challenge around the corner. It takes a special breed of crack acquisition and all these growth funnels and everything, but persistence can unlock all kinds of opportunities for you.
Yeah. When I first got into e-commerce, a lot of friends and colleagues and stuff tried to follow me in because they're like, oh, it looks like he doesn't do anything. He's just, just collecting money out of thin air. And I'm like,
just watch a couple ads on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, and then, or they just try to copy me exactly, which I'm like, that's not very nice. Only had one guy do a really good job of it. And, but it's still running a business, right? You still have to look at it from the big picture of everything that you're creating. Well, Matthew, really appreciate getting to know you and for you sharing your experience and your wisdom here. And to all my biz ninjas, wherever you're listening, tuning in, watching, it's your turn to go out and do something.